Hello and welcome to Rays of Hope. I'm your host, Amy Clevitants. We all know that child abuse and neglect are topics that happen in our communities, whether we want to talk about it or not. In the 1980s and the 1990s, there were great media pushes that shined a light on this dark part of our society, and we all became very aware that these are things that happen in our communities. Fortunately, a nationwide poll of Americans showed that 90% of individuals polled nationwide by telephone understood that this was a challenge in their communities, and they embrace these children and want to stand up behind these children and support families. However, a large percentage of these polled also felt overwhelmed when it came to prevention and taking care of families, understanding what they can do beyond their own families to help strengthen their communities. I have two special guests today to join me to talk about child abuse prevention and strategies we can employ as a community in order to help strengthen our families and lessen the incidence of child abuse and neglect in our society. Joining me today is Jill Seifred, Executive Director of Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky, and Rebecca Haake, Prevention Services Specialist for Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky, or PCAK. Welcome, ladies.
Hi. Thank you.
Let's start with you, Jill. Can you give me an overview of who is PCAK?
Sure. Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky is Kentucky's only statewide child abuse prevention organization. So we feel honored that when we're here in Paducah or wherever we go in the state, that we are representing the state's only child abuse prevention organization. So our sole mission is to prevent the abuse and neglect of Kentucky's children. We accomplish that, I guess simply put, through programs and services, advocacy, and outreach.
So you are a statewide organization.
We are statewide.
And you operate out of which location?
Our office is in Lexington. We have 9 employees, and we've been in Paducah the last few weeks, as I know that we'll be talking about here in a few minutes. But we cover the state from Lexington, but we spend a lot of time on the road.
Fantastic. Rebecca, you're Prevention Services Specialist.
Yes.
Tell me exactly, what does that entail and what's your mission?
Our mission is to, very simply, prevent the abuse and neglect of Kentucky's children. And we really believe that the key to that mission, or the key to achieving that mission, is through education. So a lot of what we do is we provide public education, public awareness, and resources about child abuse and neglect, but also about those general parenting tips, keys to discipline, etc., so that we're really helping people build that skill set that they need to be successful parents.
With regard to any programs that you offer, you've alluded to some of them. Are there any specific programs that you have statewide that you offer?
Go ahead.
I think there are a number. First of all, sort of going off what we had just talked about, with some of our parent education and parent support services, we do have a network of what we refer to as partners in prevention. Many of those are providing parent education and parent support services across the state. In addition to that, we do have some of those more tailored opportunities, such as we offer a program called FACT, which is really targeting fathers and looking at fathers and children together is what FACT stands for. Mm-hmm. In addition, we also have, of course, some outreach efforts centered around educating the public on pediatric abusive head trauma, as well as, which is commonly known as that shaken baby syndrome, mm-hmm. but really providing additional education and information. In addition, we also maintain a resource library that provides a lot of that resource information that we alluded to prior. One of our biggest campaigns, as we're sort of leading into April, is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we really use that as an opportunity to educate the public on what resources are out there, that general parenting information, but also those skills that they need.
We also have 1-800-CHILDREN, so for your audience that's viewing us, it's a toll-free line. If you're any place in Kentucky, you can call that number from, well, I'm thinking of the time difference. Basically, it's during business hours, and it's an information and referral line. And Becky had mentioned the Partners in Prevention. For any attorneys who may be watching, when we refer to as partners, it's not in the legal definition, but just in terms of, we've got about 88, I think at last count, partners across the state, ranging from hospitals, schools, businesses, labor unions, governmental organizations, who have just come together and said, this is how we are going to help Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky, help prevent child abuse and neglect in our communities.
Fantastic. Now, if someone was interested in working with you or with one of your partners, I assume the information you've been talking about is publicly available. How should they get in touch with you as far as looking up your information?
I really believe that our website is one of our best resources. Our website is www.pcaky.org. On that website, you're going to find not only that resource information, but also that listing of statewide partners with their contact information. It makes it a really great tool for people who may be in McCracken County that are looking for some partner information. They can literally just log on and pull that information that suits their needs best.
Do you also have a calendar of events? You spoke about the education programs.
We do. Throughout the state of Kentucky, there are a host of events that really center on child abuse prevention throughout the year, not just in April. You will find currently right now highlighted on our homepage is that statewide events calendar. What that is no matter where you are in the state of Kentucky, there are events being planned for April as Child Abuse Prevention Month, but in addition there's a number of educational opportunities that occur throughout the year. All of that information is published on that site with contact information as well.
Good. Now, April is a significant month.
Yes.
You've just alluded to that. What makes April special?
Oh gosh, where to start? I think the thing that makes it the one of the most special things is that, if that's correct grammar, is that for more than 25 years, by presidential as well as gubernatorial proclamation, so not only here in the Commonwealth but nationwide, our elected officials have declared April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. So any folks who are kind of interested in any of the social issues that we are confronting nowadays know that there's kind of a designated month for many of the things that we're interested in. And not that we want only to focus on that month, but what we have found is that many times it's a springboard to lead to discussions throughout the year. Partnerships that are perhaps started in April then can flourish and be nurtured throughout the other 11 months. But when we look back on our history, Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky, which started in 1987, we found that many of our partnerships, many of our outreach opportunities kind of had their impetus in April as Child Abuse Prevention Month.
We alluded at the beginning, there's a difference between awareness activities and prevention activities. And Rebecca, we've talked at length about this in the past, so I'd like for you to talk to our viewers a little bit. What's the difference between child abuse awareness and child abuse prevention?
I think that for us, it's one thing to recognize that child abuse and neglect exist, but it's another thing to change behavior, and that's really where that prevention piece happens. We of course feel that raising awareness is essential, but what we're really looking to accomplish is to change a behavior. And so, whether that may be one of those things that we often hear people say is, I know that child abuse and neglect happens, but I'm just not sure what to do about it or how to get involved. And that's really one of the benefits, I think, of we spotlight those opportunities in April, but they continue throughout the year, and really helping people understand this is the role that they play in prevention and how that leads to a change in behavior for them.
If I could just kind of piggyback on that, when you were kind enough to be introducing us, you made a mention of kind of where we've come from the 1970s and the 1980s to now, and what we're seeing is that a number of the research reports that have been produced on a national level have said, okay, we as a society know that child abuse and neglect exists, which is a change from the 70s and 80s. But now that we know that it exists, what are we going to do about it, and how do we go about doing that? And Jill Seifred in Lexington, Kentucky, how does Jill do that? How does Amy do that in Paducah? What's the difference? What are the similarities? And the other thing we see is that even though we, generally speaking as a society, know that child abuse and neglect exists, can we make the correlation between, okay, I know it exists, but I know that it exists here in Paducah, or I know that it exists on my street, or in my school, or in my place of worship, or on my athletic team, or so how can we continue to boil it down so that everybody here in the studio and everybody who's watching can know, okay, not only do I know it exists, but I know what my role is in preventing the abuse and neglect, and here's how I can go about doing it.
I think in addition to that, we also look at how do we strengthen families and how do we help them to realize the skills or help them develop those skills that really lead to that protection and prevention as well. So I think it's a combination of not only recognizing but also helping people to strengthen that family, to build that resiliency, and to build that skill set as well that leads to true prevention.
And I think a lot of times we hear about the cycle of abuse, and for those of us who have worked in the field of child abuse and neglect, we know what that means, but to some of your viewers, that may be a foreign term or something that they're not familiar with, but what we have found repeatedly is that if you're in a family and discipline is handled a certain way within your family, or you grew up in an environment that accepted certain things within your family, you don't know that there's another way of doing that. You don't know that there are options or alternatives until you're exposed to something different. And so what we have found is that many children who grew up in abusive homes, they don't know that particular behavior is not okay until they are shown another way of doing it.
And habits die hard, as we know.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think for the general community, we tend to think that what happens in someone else's family is none of our business. Does that contribute to the challenge? And what would you say to these individuals in our community that see that something's wrong, but they don't know quite what to do or how to step in?
I think that for me, one of the tricky pieces about child abuse and neglect is that it's not an exact science. I can't sit here and I'll never be able to say to you, if you see this and you see this, then it is automatically child abuse and neglect and you must make a report. But I think what it boils down to is that, if you're getting that feeling and you're getting that sense that something's wrong, you have to do what's in the best interest of the child. And many times that is picking up the phone and calling and making that report. You don't have to know for a fact that it's abuse or neglect. You just have to do what's in the best interest of that child. And if you have concerns, express those concerns and make that known. And so we always encourage, when in doubt, pick up the phone and make that report. Let the Department for Community-Based Services kind of do their investigation and do their job, but do what's in the best interest of the child.
Absolutely. You have some wonderful videos on your website. They feature parents or families who are needing help, and then there's the shiny blue shirt of help coming along, and I think that's a wonderful picture of what it is the community looks like. I would recommend that all of our viewers have a look at these videos and take a look at what they're doing. You might find that there are very natural ways you can go about helping those that you love and care about. Getting back to April, there's a very different way that the kickoff for Child Abuse Prevention Month is happening this year. So tell us about that.
We are so excited. This is the first year that we have had our kickoff really involving an entire community. Just kind of want to be honest with everybody that we've tried the kickoff in the Capitol Rotunda in Frankfurt, and the facility is beautiful. Acoustics are awful. You can never hear what anybody says. So, after so many years of doing something the same way and you don't quite get the results that you want, at some point we step back and said, now wait, what do we need to do a little differently here? And we thought, we need to take our prevention message on the road, so to speak. So we looked at the state and we thought, we can go to places where we have some really firmly established partners, and we know that we can get people to a kickoff. We know that X, Y, and Z will fall into place. Or we can go someplace where maybe we know some folks, but the prevention message perhaps is not as focused or prevalent or as ingrained as we would like it to be. And we can take the opportunity of April being Child Abuse Prevention Month to kind of enhance that message. And so we took that approach, picked Paducah because of your amazing community support. The artist community is well known throughout the state, and we have to say we've been amazed with folks in your community. We've been here, I think, 3 or 4 times for planning meetings. Our attendance at those meetings grows each time. We feel so grateful for the encouragement that we've been given, and we really look forward to the 29th. I'll let Becky talk a little bit more about some of the specific activities.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, we travel all across the state, and we've really been struck by the amount of community support and community enthusiasm that Paducah has demonstrated, and really the entire kind of McCracken County region. We, as Jill mentioned, we are planning a kickoff event for March 29th. It will be held from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Tillman Gymnasium here in Paducah. And it's really meant to be a celebration of families and children. And so it is very much kind of that carnival atmosphere with stilt walkers, balloon animals, inflatables, face painting, just all of that stuff that you loved when you were a kid, and that we really want kids to just come and enjoy and have fun as a family, because we know that that is an essential piece to that strengthening families component. And so that is what we have planned for our kickoff this year.
And who are you hoping will attend this kickoff?
I think that ultimately our goal is really, you know, we want kids, we want community members, we want parents and caregivers and families from across this region to really kind of embrace what it is that we're doing from that strengthening families perspective, and really just celebrate kids.
We're also hoping that kickoff, the carnival atmosphere, is also an opportunity to share some information about local resources that are here with other agencies. Part of our planning committees have involved, you know, how best can we let the citizens of McCracken County and the Paducah area know that when they are struggling as a family, or when parents or caregivers have specific questions or issues, that they are not in it by themselves, that there's people, agencies, entities, organizations that they can reach out to. So a small component, we don't want people to show up and think that there's going to be a lecture or anything like that, but a small component of that kickoff event will be for agencies to share the opportunity about if you need help, if you need assistance, if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you're not sure of how to handle a particular situation within your family, here are community agencies that are in existence, ready, willing, and able to help.
Absolutely.
Is there a fee for attending this event?
It is a free event. We have been very fortunate that, again, the kind of Paducah-McCracken County region has really embraced it. We've been very, very fortunate to get a lot of items donated, and it is a free event, so come one, come all.
I think the other part of the kickoff that we are looking forward to is to be unveiled at some date to be determined, but we're so excited to be working with the artist community. And I don't know if you can see the pinwheel that I'm wearing, but the silver and blue pinwheel is a symbol of child abuse prevention, not only here in Kentucky, but nationwide. And the artist community has been very gracious in working with us to develop a sculpture or some kind of piece of art that will be on display in the Paducah area permanently for kind of to demonstrate Paducah's commitment to child abuse and child abuse prevention. So we don't quite know what that piece of art will look like, but we are hoping to unveil an artist's rendition of what it may look like, and then we'll be working with city and county officials to hopefully be able to display that someplace publicly for years to come.
Fantastic. Speaking of pinwheels, we hear a lot about things like pinwheel gardens and pinwheel displays. How are community members utilizing that pinwheel, that symbol of hope, within the community?
I will say, pinwheels, there really seems to be no limit on creativity. We have been amazed in the 3 years since we've really kind of pushed the Pinwheels for Prevention campaign all of the creative ways. And one of the things for us is that I think it goes back to what we talked about before, that, child abuse and neglect is a really tough subject and no one really wants to talk about it. But the pinwheel has been such an amazing tool because we can use that pinwheel to start a conversation. And so people have done these very elaborate pinwheel gardens in front of their businesses, their organizations, their schools. And really the biggest impact has really been that it starts a conversation. We have organizations across the state of Kentucky that are using these kind of in that very elaborate display, but also, on a one-on-one basis and kind of handing them out to kids. It's a great tool to get kids engaged in a prevention conversation as well.
We also have, I believe if you go to our website, if it's not posted on the website, give us a call at 1-800-CHILDREN and we can get the materials to you. But we encourage children, art classes to get involved. We have like 8.5 by 11 templates so kids can color pinwheels, or they can make the pinwheels out of various art media. And we were in a town in eastern Kentucky last year, and it was so awesome because they had a walk down the middle of town, and all of the businesses on either side had these paper pinwheels that were colored by the students in their community, and they had them displayed in the windows along Main Street. And it was just a kind of a heartwarming thing to see with the support of all those businesses in that small community. So we think that one of the secrets of pinwheels is that people can make it into whatever they want it to be, however elaborate or however simple. Also say that there are some businesses, and we're very thankful for their support, who have opted to have like paper pinwheels that are sold at the point of sale for $1, and then that dollar goes to help prevent the abuse and neglect of Kentucky's children.
Fantastic. You have lovely silver and blue pinwheels that you've brought with us for our set today. There are individuals in the community, perhaps school groups or daycares, who'd like to purchase those. Can they purchase those from you?
We do have those available, and all of the ordering information is on our website as well. There is a Pinwheels for Prevention tab, but there's also, under that 2012 Child Abuse Prevention Month link from our homepage, it will take you to all of the pinwheel information.
Fantastic. Well, I know there are a number of community groups here in our area that I've spoken to that are planning activities throughout the month of April, and we'll make sure that those get to you so they can be included in your calendar.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything you'd like to add with regard to the event or the efforts of PCAK?
I think it goes back to that there really is no limit to the Pinwheels for Prevention message. And really, we encourage folks to take what is a negative and turn it into a positive. And so the pinwheel makes such a great tool for that, and it's such a kind of fun and whimsical way to remind people of how important kids are in our lives every day.
I think I would add to that, Amy, that when we first started coming in and having the planning meetings, a couple of folks said, well, we're interested in helping, but kind of what happens beyond April? Mm-hmm. We feel like we are just scratching the surface of our partnership with the Paducah and McCracken County community. So what we hope is, just as we look at Child Abuse Prevention Month statewide as an impetus for kind of that springboard for discussion, we feel that same way about Paducah and McCracken County. We're not just here on March 29th to have the kickoff at the gym. We want to be seen as a resource for not only families and children, but for professionals in the area who work every day with families and children and who may need some assistance with resources or training or whatever the case may be. So our website, or 1-800-CHILDREN, we want to be just as ingrained as the local resources are here in Paducah.
Well, as a PCAK partner, PCAK is very proud of the work that we're able to do alongside you, but most certainly the leadership that you show across our state in linking us all together. So thank you for your ongoing efforts, the efforts that you've you've done to bring this event to Paducah. I know that the Paducah agencies we're working with are very proud to have this event taking place with us. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining us today. Again, to our viewers, I want to remind you that event is taking place on Thursday, March 29th. That's from 5:30 to 7 o'clock p.m. at the Paducah Tillman High School Gymnasium. We encourage you to bring your children, bring your grandchildren, your neighbors. Just come out and join us for a free event full of fun. It's all about celebrating kids and strengthening our families. In the next segment, we're going to talk a little more about prevention and how we can be good bystanders. So please join us again on our next episode where we'll talk more about that. On behalf of PCAK and PCAK, thank you all for what you do to help strengthen our families and strengthen our communities. If we can provide any additional assistance, don't hesitate to call the center at 534-4422.